Welcome to our Forging Mighty Sons podcast. And today I have a very special guest. All the interviewees that are on this show have a very specific reason for being on to teach you, all the fathers who are tuning into this episode, how to raise men, sons of strength and purpose and honor. And I thought it was very important to bring this next guest onto the show, a man that I respect dearly. I've known a long time. I'd like to invite and welcome Chris McGarahan.
Hey Martin, thanks very much. Glad to do this with you.
For those who don't know you, I think we just give them an idea of just a glimpse into who you are, what you've done in your life, in your business, and in your professional life. And then we'll jump in, and fathers and listeners of the show will quickly understand why we're here and the important lessons that we'll teach them today in our show. But let's just give them like a quick glimpse of who you are and what you've done up to now in your professional life.
Okay, well, I started off, kind of got to go back. I'm from London originally, moved to America when I was 23. I was a carpenter in London. I finished school at 16, did a carpentry apprenticeship. Prior to that, I did boxing, wrestling. I came from a pretty rough neighborhood in London, came to New York when I was 23 as a carpenter. Long story short, I did that till I was 32. I then broke my arm, shattered it, couldn't do carpentry work anymore. The guy I was working for said to me, well, would you like to go into sales? At the time, we were selling room additions, patio covers, external house products. So outside the house, nothing inside the house. So I went into that and I became the top salesman for that company in the country. They then asked me to go into sales management, which I did. And then I got asked to do seminars. And then I was in the seminar business for 30 plus years, traveling all over the world, doing that, teaching sales, and bought some real estate along the way. And today I'm 67 now, and I'm kind of semi-retired. Not really. I don't think I'll ever retire. I still have two companies. I have believe it or not, a hair extension company that I'm partners in, and a jewelry company. And I'm basically retired from the real estate business now because I turned all my buildings, I sold them to my tenants, and I now receive mortgages. So that's kind of it. And just living a good life down here in Florida.
So, sales, and this is the key word here, how to sell, and not just sell a product, but to sell yourself. And this is something that my father taught me at a very young age and told me, Martin, if you can master these three things, you can have anything you want in the world. And these three things are, and I want the audience here, the fathers, just have you think about this. Did you teach these three things to your sons? And hopefully it's a yes, but if it's not, you're in luck because we have a master salesman here that'll teach us a little bit about using those three things and how to teach them to our kids so that they can be successful using these three things. So what are those three things? Number one, communication. Two, persuasion. And the last three, negotiation. Master these three things, you hold the keys to any lock in the world, whether it's in relationships, meeting the person of your dreams, building a business, selling a business, whatever it is. So I appreciate you taking the time. Let's dive into this. The master keys, these three things, why are they important, and why should we as fathers teach this to our sons?
Well, ultimately in life, and I taught this to my son kind of all along, but really when he left school, he wasn't an academic. So I sent him around the country. Right? This was his apprenticeship. So I was either going to pay for college um, which would have been a waste of time because he was an academic. So I chose to take that money and have him travel around to people who owned businesses uh, to learn communication, all types of different types of communication on video, which is very important today, live, and what people did in communication, meaning doesn't matter what the business is. It doesn't matter what the product is. It matters how good a communicator you are. Now, this goes to every part of life, but if we just stick to uh, kind of sales, selling yourself, it's the most important thing. And I believe in a principle called ARC, A-R-C. Action equals results equals confidence. Action equals results equals confidence. So the first step is you got to get people to take action. And this would start off with kids. So I had my kids always, since they were little, selling something. Lemonade, didn't matter what it was. My son, when he was 18, I had him selling health products. I had him, which you know all about because he kind of learned it from you. He used to do a class teaching people Qigong. So he was always selling, always communicating. And he was a little bit of a shy kid. And if you met him now, he's not at all. He's married now. He's got 2 kids, a wonderful wife, etc. But if you don't get them started early, my opinion, if you do not get them started early, it just becomes harder. And to me, this is the father's job. This is the dad's job to get your son into action. For instance, my son was putting out the trash cans when he was 8 years old. I had him cleaning windows. So putting them into action is the most important thing. Now, what does that have to do with communication? Well, it's the same principle. Is if you haven't done something before and you start doing it, you become confident that you can do it. So action steps, especially for boys, for young boys, are very important. And the next part is discipline. Communication is a discipline. Not many people describe it this way. But if you want to get good at communication, it's a discipline. It's a series of steps that you have to go through, but all based on action, not based on theory. Has to be an action step. Again, I started mine off putting the trash out, cleaning the windows, and then taking them to work with me. I took my son to work with me, and I think that's very, very important. Doesn't matter what you do. Doesn't matter if you're a computer guy. Take your son to work with you. Very, very important.
Mhm.
And I started having him see what I did. He then became slightly more interested in what do you do? And he probably started this about 12. So, and by then I'd already put him into boxing. Um, so, martial arts of any kind increase a kid's confidence. Again, action, results, confidence. So we may think, what does communication have to do with martial arts? Well, it has to do with increasing confidence, which has everything to do with communication. Anyone that is in fear is not going to be a good communicator. Anybody that is confident is going to be a good communicator. It's that black and white.
Mhm, mhm.
So if you have no confidence, you're not going to be a good communicator. You're going to shy away. And if you have confidence, you will be a good communicator. Now, the next thing is how articulate are you at getting your point across? How good are you at taking facts and turning them into the communication that you want to give? Again, this all goes back to action. So if my son asks me a question, as opposed to just answering the question, I'd show him how to go get the answer. be that in a book. So my son, crazy story, he wasn't academic at all. He never read a book in high school. He just did enough to get to the next grade kind of thing so he could graduate. But he wasn't into it. But as soon as we found subjects that he was interested in, no one I ever met read books like him.
Hmm.
He would read a book every 2 days at some point, at least a book a week. And he wasn't a reader. But if he had subjects that he was interested in, which if they ask you a question, they are interested in that. So as opposed to trying to impose stuff on them, put them in scenarios where they ask questions. Or you ask them a question. What did you think of that? Did you understand how that works? And if they say yes, or I'm interested in that, or they ask another question, well, how does that work then to the next thing? Teach them the source. Don't always give them the answer. Now, I'm not saying all the time, but if it's something they can research themselves, give it to them.
Hmm.
And then visit again and say, how did you find out the answer to that? What did you think? It's a great conversation starter, and it's stuff that they are interested in. That's the key to this. If
Hmm.
you want to be a good communicator, you want to teach someone to be a good communicator, find subjects that they are interested in. They're just much more likely to do it. So it's a series of steps. You go to the next step, then you see further. It's a series of steps. It's not you go from A to Z in confidence. You go from A to B, then B to C, then C to D. Again, my son was pretty shy. He was a little more on the shy side, I would say. And today, if you met him, you would think he's the most confident guy in the world.
Hmm.
But a lot of this, again, I'm going to tie it back into martial arts because if they feel confident that they can take care of themselves, they can defend themselves, they have the discipline of martial arts, I really think that martial arts has about 100 different consequences in life, not one where you know how to kick or you know how to choke somebody out. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the confidence that it gives them, the quiet confidence. You see really good martial artists, guys who can really, really, really do it. They don't do a lot of talking. They don't need to. And that's some do in showbiz and what have you. But for the most part, most martial arts do not go around announcing what they can and can't do. And if you instill that in a young man, again, back to communication, I'm not losing the message here. It gives them confidence. And I think communication, good communication, is all about confidence and then learning the facts of what you're interested in. So you always want to guide a young man, in my opinion, to something they're interested in, which may not necessarily be what you have done. Maybe
Hmm.
something entirely different. So you got to find out kind of their passion along the way. But again, I'm going to attribute a lot of this to martial arts. So communication is based on confidence, period, end of the story.
Hmm. Let's unpack that a little bit for the listeners. I don't know how many of the listeners do what you just talked about, and it's always amazing to me how principles are universal and the great dads, what they do and what they teach is always very similar, and it's very similar to me because of my background and what we do as a family business in martial arts. I see oftentimes parents and fathers that don't let their kids speak. When they come to us to the school, to the dojo, and I ask the child, the kid, the son, a question, the parent will answer for the kid, and it always drives me crazy. And I'll usually say, wait, let the Johnny, let the David answer my question. Little things like that. Or when you go to the restaurant and you order food, why are you ordering the food for your son? Let him speak and order his food. And I would have my son, like I'd give him money if we go to a coffee shop or a donut shop or any shop to buy something. I wouldn't go with him. I'd stay in the car and I'd tell my son Vincent, go inside, order this, and that, and then bring it back to me. So he would have to go into the store like a little kid, like 7 or 8 years old, and he would pay. He would speak to the lady or the man there and order like what he wanted, and then bring it back to me. And reading, like the point you said about articulating, like I would take the time to sit with him and have him read the book, and I would listen and correct if he was not speaking or articulating clearly to me. And another thing that we did is we would give him a subject, like you mentioned, something of interest to him, and he would have to present like a 2 to 3 minute presentation in front of the whole family, and he would have to present something about that subject to us, and he would speak in front of the group, the family group. And then lastly, since we're in the martial arts, since they're about 6 years old, I have them stand in front of the class and have them do the warm ups, teach and speak in front of the class and communicate clearly. But from what you said and my points, I just they're so similar because universal success principles doesn't matter what ethnic group or country or any business, any family, if it's a successful family with good results, we tend to do very similar things. So it always amazes me to hear somebody else say stuff that I taught to my own kids, and we both had very good success with our kids.
But Martin, not to interrupt you there, but everything you just mentioned was an action.
Yes,
Go inside and get the coffee.
exactly.
Get in front of the class. Read in front of everything was an action. You got to put them into action.
Mm-hmm.
And if the parents, and especially a dad boy relationship, which is completely different than a dad girl relationship, it's complete. I've got 3 daughters. It's
Mm-hmm.
completely different. If you don't put a boy into action early, early, I don't think they ever do it. Based on the kids I've seen, they all think when they graduate college, well, by the time they graduate college, they're 24, 23, 24 years old. They have no clue, and everything's been done for them. Like, I have several businesses. I've tried to hire these kids. They are absolutely useless. Useless. They don't know how to get anything done. They have to be told everything. And it's almost like starting to train a 24-year-old man. They're men. They're 24. And they have to be told how this works. How do you pay an electric bill? They don't know how to go find anything out.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I think, and I just won't bend on this, is you got to put them into action early. Be that putting out the trash cans, be it cleaning windows, be it sending them in to get the donuts, it doesn't matter what it is. I dropped my son off at a basketball camp for a week when he was 10 up in Santa Barbara on his own with a bunch of boys and basketball players and drop him off. You'll be good. Figure it out. And I think that's what you got to do. And if you don't do it as a dad, you will pay the price later.
Mm-hmm.
You will pay a big price later, in my opinion. I have seen dads and the way their sons talk to them. I mean, I don't want to talk about violence, but there's no way my son would speak to me that way. Not even, and you even see it in like grocery stores, the way kids talk to their parents. And this is because they absolutely do not put them into action with respect. And it's also teaching them a work ethic. And no matter what you say, if you go into sales, communication, doesn't matter what it is, you have to have a strong work ethic and you have to have discipline. You got to be able to get up in the morning. So when I'm teaching somebody, especially a young person, first thing, what do I do when I get up? Make your bed. Some of it sounds a little militaristic, but it's just what I believe. So when it comes to communication, what did your son have to do when he went into the donut shop? He had to communicate. And not many 6-year-olds would do that, or 7-year-olds, or 8-year-olds. Does that make sense? So
Oh,
communication is putting your son in positions where they have to communicate. So
I
that's
hope.
my theory on communication. And then find subjects they're interested in that they will communicate about. It's about building this confidence one step to the next step.
Hmm. I hope that the fathers listening to this, I hope there's like a light bulb that like that's coming on. But like we mentioned, the earlier we start this, the better. It's not, I think it's never too late to start and to change or to add a style to your parenting that reflects more of these concepts. But if you have a newly born son who like just born or is 2 or 3, then take note and get these principles integrated, applied, and use them. But are you of the same accord that it's never too late? But of course, once the tree blooms and the branches are out, it's hard to bend the branch back. But they do it with the bonsai tree, right? So you can bend it back in place in the right direction.
I don't know if you can do it in normal everyday life,
Yeah.
Martin, because habits get created
Yes.
and patterns get created. So I don't know if you can do it in just the regular course of your life where a dad's going to wake up or a son's going to wake up one day and say, let's do it different, dad.
Hmm.
No. Here's what I do believe. I believe if you're serious about it, if both people are serious, doesn't matter what the age is, you need something. You need a mediator. You need an event. You need like next month I'll be going. My son's 33 now. We'll be going to the Canelo Crawford match in Vegas, the boxing match. That's our thing. That's our what we do. He's married now with kids, busy, but we still take time for that. I could not see a son who's 25, 30, 35 years old, or the dad, changing in the normal course of events.
Hmm.
So I think they need something. If they really want to get it done, both people want to get it done. Hey, let's build a tighter relationship, dad or son. Um, there's a song by Mike and the Mechanics, which is, the dad's gone, and he sees the dad in his son. It's a brilliant song, Mike and the Mechanics, and it's about what he wished he'd have done, what he wished he would have done with his dad,
Hmm.
and it's called "In the Living Years."
Oh
In
yes.
the in
Oh
the
yes.
living years,
Oh yes. Yes.
it's a brilliant song, and if you just listen to that song, it really does, teach you a lot about the father and the son, and the regrets that you will have, not maybe have, will have
Hmm.
if you don't do something now. So I'm not saying it can't be done, but I think you need something to get it done, if that makes sense. Be it an event, be it something that tightens up the relationship. But both people have to be serious about it. Whereas if you start it young, you don't know any different. That's just the way you operate. So, my son and I we have a business together. If I go to Vegas and we have an office and a warehouse there, if I go there, we really don't even have to talk. We know what the other one's going to do. We built on his house. We built a room addition together. So we've been doing it so long now. We don't need to go like he knows my stuff and I know his stuff and what he can do faster and what I can do better and it really becomes like a little bit of a mental thing. So do I think people can repair it? Yes. Do I think it's more difficult? Yes. I think you've got to get them young, and I think the teenage years are just absolutely critical
Mm.
from 13 to 18. I would say even 13 to 17.
Yeah.
So, but communication, um, Martin, as I was saying, is all about confidence. And you
Mm.
got to create the kids' confidence. And there's multiple ways of doing that. Multiple ways of doing that.
Mm.
Plus, a young man who is disciplined, who meets a girl, that girl is going to be so much more attracted to him, especially in this day and age where 90, as far as I'm concerned, 95% of teenage boys, they're just not there. They just don't have a clue. So I don't even see what a girl would see in them, to be honest with you, because they're not manly. They don't have great manners. That's another thing, is
Yes.
manners is a huge part of communication. And certainly when we get to the next subject, it will be. Anyway, I don't want to beat this to death,
Yeah.
Martin, but confidence is from action.
Got it. Uh, there's a lot of value right there. And like on our first point, communication, like someone could just walk away now and apply this stuff will make a big, big difference in their life and in their son's life. But we still have two important points to go. Persuasion, to
Yep.
persuade, so powerful. What are your thoughts about persuasion?
Well, persuasion is in any meeting. This could be your wife, this could be your girlfriend, this could be your son, this could be your friend, your uncle. It doesn't matter. Persuasion is starts with how you enter. How are you entering? So whether it's a phone call, whether it's a live meeting, a Zoom call, it doesn't matter what it is. Persuasion is how starts with how you enter something. So let's say everybody enters something 50-50. I'm going to come here. We're going to talk about this. Here's where I want to end up. And the other person, here's where they want to end up. And they're slightly different. Or how you enter it, how you enter that conversation, or could be an email, could be a text. That's all part of persuasion. You're trying to get your point across. How are you entering? Are you entering desperately? Are you desperate when you enter? Are you in fear? Are you worried about what's going to happen? And we'll go back to the same word again. Are you confident? Are you worried about what the outcome's going to be? Because how persuasive you will be, bad English, will be the result of whether you care about the outcome enough.
Mhm.
So persuasion is based on posture, another word with a P, posture.
Mhm.
So if I'm going into a meeting, I'm an employee and my boss calls me in and I know I did something wrong 3 days ago. I was late. I was an hour late back from lunch or whatever the scenario is. And I'm going to that meeting worried about the outcome, then I'm not going to be persuasive. You can't be because the other person has the upper hand. So instead of it being 50-50, it is now 60-40 or 70-30. And persuasion goes in percentages. It's percentages. How persuasive you're going to be is based on your posture going into the conversation. So if you don't care about what the outcome is, in other words, you don't need that outcome, you don't need it, you'd like it, you want it, but you don't need it. You're going to be fine no matter what the outcome is. That completely changes how persuasive you are. So if you notice people who have posture, so there's three words there: persuasion, posture, and percentages with the P's. Persuasion, posture, percentages. So what percentage are you worried? What percentage are they worried? So let's say a girl is just done with a boyfriend. There is not even a possibility. He has done something that is just past her morals. She can't live with it. Done.
Mm.
It's 99% to 1%. I'm not saying he has no chance, but it's 1%.
Mm.
99%, you're done. It's over. Well, if you're entering into any conversation and the other person is past the 50% mark, then you're not going to persuade them.
Mm.
They have the upper hand. So this comes to mental conditioning. All of this ties together, Martin. It's not separate. You can do 100 different subjects. It will all tie back to the same thing, which is confidence.
Mm.
How confident are you going into this that you can handle it, you can get your point across, and you're not in fear? If you're worried going into a conversation, the other person is probably going to persuade you. Now, persuasion could be, I'm firing you. And here's the reasons. And you don't have a reason for them not to. Next, if you're in sales, you have to believe in your product.
Mm.
You have to believe that this is the best thing that they can buy. And then we'll use the V word, value. You cannot be persuasive unless believe you are delivering value. In a relationship, you have to believe that you are delivering value. The other person, for it to work, has to believe they're delivering value as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And as soon as one person starts sucking more than their value, that's when relationships go wrong. That's when friendships go wrong. That's when business relationships go wrong. And that is when you cannot persuade anybody of anything, when you have gone past your value. And this comes to humility. So, does persuasion and humility have anything to do with each other? Yes. You got to know when to be quiet.
Mm.
You got to know when not to talk and when to be humble. Humbleness is one of the best forms of persuasion. Persuasion isn't all about talking. There's a thing called attraction during persuasion, where you have to attract the other person to you, which then behind that may be a product. But you got to attract that person to you. And they got to feel like you're going to deliver value. But they've also got to see when you're talking or when they're talking, you know when to be humble and shut up. And another thing is when to be grateful.
Mm.
When to be grateful and say thank you. So part of persuasion is your entry, your manners. And this is where words are so important. Try and say no. I had a young man here trying to sell me something the other day. Try and say no when a young person is calling you sir. Try and say no when a young person is calling you sir. So persuasion is set up with posture, not being worried, and then humility and manners.
Mm.
Manners, no one, I don't care who they are, objects to good manners.
Mm.
And when young men, especially, have good manners today, they stand out. I actually believe it's the easiest time to become a multi-millionaire in history right now, and for a young man. And the reason I believe that is I believe it's very easy to stand out today with all the other young men.
Very true.
Anybody who's got manners, who's disciplined, who knows when to be humble, that automatically makes them persuasive. They're,
Arrives early, leaves a bit later, like goes the extra mile. I tell this to my kids all the time. The competition is very, very low. It doesn't take much to
Doesn't take much to beat the competition. As
Not at
you
all.
know,
Yeah.
I am a freak for lateness. Somebody's late for me, turn the car around.
Yeah.
I have no interest in meeting you. None, zero. And this could be an executive of a company. I don't care what it is. This could be someone who potentially could bring me a lot of business. Don't care. Turn the car around.
Mm-hmm.
Period. End of the story. My seminars, Martin. I used to put, as soon as we started, I'd put a sign on the door. Sorry, you're late. Come back at the break or have a nice ride home. And they paid, Martin. They
Yeah,
were paying me. They were paying me to come to my seminar. Didn't want them there. Because if they don't have enough respect to be on time, they're going to disrupt the rest of the room. Does that make sense? They don't have it. They're not there.
for sure. For sure. That was awesome. I love the different anecdotes and the different stories. I hope again that the listeners are taking notes because this is gold. The third point, negotiation.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts about negotiation? Because we're always negotiating with our wife, our kids, or our business, or clients, or customers. Like how are you most effective, and what are some of the different nuggets or good advice for kids, sons, or fathers, or even mothers that are watching this for their son or their husband? What can we teach them about good negotiation skills?
Okay. This is a great question, Martin, and a unique question. I've never heard that question asked before for young men. But I'm going to tell you a critical juncture. I said a little bit earlier that 13 to 17 is the danger zone, I call it. It's when a kid can go wrong. And there's drugs and all this. They're in schools. It doesn't matter what anybody thinks, they are. And there's also a lot of other uh, bad influences. So, negotiation, if you hear four teenagers standing outside, four young men on a Friday evening, where are we going? What are we doing? What are we? So, so they are negotiating. Well, I'd like to go here. No, I don't like that down there. I would rather go here. So, for a young person to have influence in negotiating, they're not going to bend the rules. It's much easier to negotiate when you have rules. And if a young person has had rules since they're young, you don't go anywhere without telling me. You don't. Does that make sense? I want to know where you are.
Yeah.
If I say home by 9 o'clock, it's not 10 o'clock. If I say home, but I'm talking about when they're younger.
Yeah.
So rules help negotiate. So there's certain things in business, Martin, that I won't bend on. One is being late.
Mm.
Done. It's over. Now, that's an unwritten negotiation, but it's a law of mine. It's a rule. It's a principle. So if you have laws, so if I hear somebody doing something slightly unethical, so I've been done a little bit of business with them, and I hear them talking in an unethical way. I don't wait for that to turn into they robbed 50,000 off me. I don't wait for that. Minute one, that doesn't work. That doesn't work. It's over. The negotiation is in our head of what we will accept and what we won't accept. It's also comes back to the second point, which is, let's say I'm negotiating a building, a real estate deal. I don't listen to realtors. I do my own research
Mm.
on everything. And if you do the action, you'll get good at it. And you'll understand the value of that property better than the realtor. Remember, the realtor makes a commission from selling it to you.
Yeah.
He's not going to find you the deal. He's not going to find you the tax advantages. He's not going to do any of that, or she, whoever.
Yeah.
So, so the first step in negotiation is knowing what you will do and what you won't do. So you don't get in a negotiation without having the principle or without having that, because then you will get influenced. You can be sold. And now we're going from 50% to 80% their favor. It's percentages. So in a negotiation, it's percentages. So again, a lot of negotiation is, what's the worst case scenario? So when I go to a negotiation, first thing I write down is, what's the worst case scenario here? The worst case scenario is they say no to what I want. That's the worst case scenario, the worst thing that's going to happen. What's the best case scenario? They say yes to everything I want. So I write this down. Here's the worst case scenario. Here's the best case scenario. Then I draw a line in the middle. What is an acceptable scenario for me? Worst case, best case, acceptable. I always propose the best case scenario for me. I'm going to assume that they're going to present the best case scenario for them.
Mm.
But here's the difference. How badly do they want it, and how badly do I want it? That's the key to negotiation. Worst case, best case, acceptable to me. Acceptable to me will never go past my 50%, ever. It will never go past my percentage, ever.
Mm.
So when I'm negotiating, I know what the worst case scenario is. I know what the best case scenario is, and I know what acceptable to me is. So one of the key phrases here is acceptable to me, not acceptable to someone else. They'll tell you a story. Well, we had a guy last week who was willing to pay this and willing to pay that. Go get him. Go do it with them. Acceptable to me. So going into a negotiation, it can't be something, or you can't feel that you're going to be behind the eight ball if you do it, that you're going to be playing catch up, that you have to do more than you're willing to do. No, there's three lines: worst case, best case, and then what's acceptable to me. Example, you're buying a building for $1 million. That building has a potential ROI, or return on investment, of, let's say, 60,000 a year net. Well, that would be a 6% return, but you believe that the $1 million that you paid with some renovation on the building could be worth 1.6, but you had to spend 200,000 to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the best case scenario? What's the worst case scenario? And what is acceptable to me?
Mm.
And if I don't have those three in place, I don't do it. I don't even look at it. So in other words, there's anomalies. There's weird situations that when you do worst case, best case, you go, this could be a disaster. Bye. Don't be afraid in negotiations to throw things off your plate.
Mm.
Next, before you enter negotiations, make sure you have an edge of some kind, or you're prepared to give an edge that you have. So, for instance, let's say you're doing a deal, a real estate deal, sales deal, you're selling something, doesn't matter. If you can help the other person with a situation they have, so in other words, could be a tax situation. I don't want to sell it this year because I made too much money and I want to sell it next year. Could we delay the close of the building?
Yeah.
Okay. So as soon as you know that, you have an edge. So the key to negotiation is to know the product, whatever that is, know the tax advantages, know the facts of it, know what, if you're in America, know what a 1031 exchange is, know what depreciation on the building is, etc. So you got to know the facts and then ask them questions. So are you doing a 1031 exchange? Are you, make sense? Why are you selling it? Ask them first. Let them give you as much information, but you have to be interested. And you're not using this information to take advantage of them, Martin. You're using this information to give them an edge.
Mm.
So it's not about what you get. Sometimes somebody will do a deal because of the edge you gave them. Think about the other person. I call it generosity of thought. Generosity of thought. And if you want to keep doing business with the same people all the time, it's hard to find good people. That's the first thing. Understand that.
Yeah.
I do business and have done business with the same 5 people for the past 30 years. And we have sent money back and forth without contracts. And I'm not telling people should do that. Just I have the right people. Same as you, mine.
Yeah.
We're doing a deal. We don't need a contract.
That's right.
We do a letter of our understanding. You're not going to screw me out of 100 grand. I'm not going to screw you out of 100 grand.
Yeah.
So a lot of it is trust, building relationships, but getting an edge so you can give it to them. Listen to them, ask questions, listen, and then try and give them an edge. Try and give them something that they weren't getting or they didn't think of. So I find that's the key to negotiation is generosity of thought. Don't just be me, 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 me. Obviously, you have your worst case scenario, best case scenario, and acceptable. But during that process, you also want to know the facts and you want to try and give them an edge. Well, what about if we didn't close until January the 10th? That would eliminate 5% of taxes for you, cumulative taxes.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense? Try and give them an edge and negotiate from that point of view. Well, here's what I think we could do. Use the word we.
Mm.
Instead of I, we. So in negotiations, use the word we as often as possible and teach your kids that as well. We. I taught my son that all the time. We. And when eventually he started speaking and communicating and doing sales, he always used the word we.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You talked about walking away about the best case scenario and then the worst. How would you teach your kids about, or how did you teach your kids about handling rejection? Like when you're trying to get something, but you don't get it. Like whether it's in a for a for a guy approaching a girl or like in a relationship, or like how did you teach them to build this callous, this type of thick skin around rejection?
Okay. So you can't wait for the rejection to happen, Martin, before you teach this. I see so many people dealing with catastrophes after the fact.
Yes.
They try and deal with it after the incident occurs. I mentioned earlier, you know, your son graduates college. He's 24 and he's coming to you, Dad, how do I set up an electric? How do I turn a light bill? Dad, what is a security deposit on an apartment? What's taxes, Dad? What are taxes? Well, too late. Now, obviously, they're gonna learn it and teach them, but
Yeah.
they should have known all that stuff way before. So I believe the principles of rejection, be it in sales, in life, or whatever, are taught very, very young, very young. So I taught my son, you're not going to be a basketball player. He used to love playing basketball. I would tell him, Chris, not happening. I'm 5'9", ain't happening. You got to be elite. You're not going to be a basketball player. Professional, I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're not going to make money playing basketball. So is that rejection? Yes. Yeah. Yeah, that's not going to happen. Tell them the truth. Now, I don't inhibit them. There's a balance here.
Mm.
But there's an obvious, right? He's not going to be a basketball player. Not going to have a professional basketball. Dad, one day I want to play for the Lakers. Chris, that's my son's name. Not going to happen. However, you're a really good basketball player, and I think you're going to get 10 rebounds on Sunday.
Mhm.
Rejection is, and you just see these spoiled boys who their parents are basically begging a coach to put them on a team or to let them play or whatever. It's the same thing with these participation medals. Good for little kids, not good for a boy once they start hitting about 8 years old. Absolutely. Little girls and what have you. But boys, 8 years old, no, they got to understand what winning and losing is. And they also have to understand the benefit of losing. The benefit of losing. So I focused a lot on the benefit of losing. And I imposed, I'm going to use that word, imposed on my son, losing is learning. Losing is learning. It's learning how to get better. Losing is learning. And then action equals results equals confidence. You have to give them measurable things that they can see themselves getting better at. Measurable things that's why I think sports, martial arts are absolutely the best thing you can do with it, because they can see if they're hitting harder. They can see if they can run for 10 minutes instead of 5. These are and when they do it, that's what you acknowledge. You acknowledge that. Hey, last week you could only run a mile. This week you're running 2 miles. So they have to get used to not being the best and losing. They have to get used to not being the best, but you have to tell them the truth. You got to tell kids the truth. You cannot have them living in this fantasy world. Now, I have a lot of fun with my son. We have a ton of fun. So it's not like I'm this hard ass. I'm not. But there's basic principles that I just told him the truth. And he has to accept that. Because that's what life is. Life is a series of truths, and you don't want to wait for a kid to get to 24, 25 and find this all out. And it ends up being a catastrophe. I believe handle the crap before it happens. Handle it before it happens, because it's going to happen. They're going to be in that situation, period, end of the story. They're going to be in compromising positions. They're going to be in positions where their morals and ethics are tested. They're going to be in positions where their honesty is tested, where their honesty is tested. Will they lie to you? Will they tell you the truth? There's going to be situations. Kids make mistakes. That's going to happen. So I believe, as opposed to getting into the situation and then coming home crying and not knowing what to do about it, start them off early, understanding how things work, and expose them to situations like if they see some kids bullying. That's a big one. That's a big one for me. If you see some kids bullying other people, it's wrong. That is wrong. And my son actually got in trouble at school for that. There was a kid who was a little bit of a weaker kid, really nice kid. He was being bullied, and my son went up and just said to him, "Look, if you want to bully anyone, bully me." And the kid didn't know my son and said, went to swing at him or whatever. And, my son did his thing and got sent home from school. And a lot of parents would have maybe put him in trouble because he got sent home from school. No, you did the right thing. You did the right thing. So to me, it's teach them to avoid situations until they have to handle it. Once my son did that, no one ever messed him at the school again. So a lot of this is principle, Martin, that you teach them when they're young. So when it comes time to that, whatever the scenario is, negotiation, let's say, they're already confident and they're not that worried if it doesn't happen. And you have to teach them lessons along the way. See, Jimmy went over there and did that. Look where he is now.
Mm.
So sometimes you got to point out the negative as well. So negotiation is based on principles more so than a skill set. It's
Mhm.
based on principles, in my opinion, how you negotiate.
And I hope that people watching this, the fathers watching this, are able to see how powerful, yes, each one separate is important, but when you put them together, all three of those elements, it does really forge a mighty son. Like it forges him into a force to be reckoned with in every area. And if we want our kids to succeed, just making sure that they're armed with those, like all the things that you talked about, if they can implement at least one or two of these principles and teach it to their sons, I think it'll make a big difference.
Yeah, another thing, Martin, at the end of the day, for all of us, and especially our kids, we want them to be happy. To be happy, they have to have power and control over their lives.
Hmm.
They got to have power and control over their own lives, be it financial security, emotional, it doesn't matter what it is. They must have power and control over their mind and over their lives to be happy. How are they going to get power and control over their lives if their father, if their dad didn't teach them how to do that? How does it happen? The magic pill? The magic pill that everybody else is depending on? No, I've seen where the magic pill goes, and it does not end up in a healthy adult. It doesn't for men. It just, they don't end up mentally healthy, physically healthy, and they have no control of their lives. Next thing, they're in therapy and taking depression tablets and all this nonsense. So, and I call it nonsense because I believe it can all be avoided. That's why I call it nonsense. I'm not talking about people who have um, like real mental illness. I'm talking about created mental illness. This is created by making boys weak
Mhm.
and dependent on somebody else or something else.
Mhm.
So um, start them early. Martial arts is critical because it's the one thing they can see the ARC, the ARC, action equals results equals confidence.
Mhm. Mhm.
And then also you have to remember what other type of kids are in martial arts. Kids who are willing to have discipline,
Yeah.
show up on time.
Mhm.
So now they create their own group. My son, his best friends today, and they're all married now and got businesses, this, that, and the other in their early 30s, great kids. He's still in communication with them today
Yeah.
from kids he used to box with when he was 12 and 13 years old. So it's a tight bond of the right people who are disciplined, honest. So really doesn't matter what your background is, mine, for success in life. It doesn't matter. It means nothing. I come from a pretty rough area in London. I know lots of people who came from very humble beginnings, such as yourself, came from very humble beginnings and have done very well in life. And it's because of these principles.
Mm.
It's not because of a college degree. It's not because of uh, it's because of these principles. The problem is, where do dads learn this today? Where do dads learn this today? Where do they learn these principles? Where do they learn what the outcome is going to be, Martin? The outcome is going to be if they don't do this. Not a maybe, is 100% guaranteed. This is going to be the outcome if you don't do this
Mm.
now. Your son, and it's our responsibility.
Yes.
This is our responsibility, period.
Mm.
End of the story. I don't believe there's a more important job. I don't believe there's a more important job than teaching your son how to have power and control over their own life so they can teach it to their son. So this becomes generational. We do what we're used to doing. We do what our habits are. We do what our discipline is. whether that's sales. So if you notice today, I could have got a lot into technique about sales and negotiating and communication. It really isn't about the technique. It's about the principle that you enter this stuff with
Yes.
and how confident you are as a young man. Young men have a lot to be self-conscious about. That just comes out and part of being a teenager. The discipline will take over. It always does. When they become a little self-confident or they're worried about something, the discipline kicks in, Martin. And that's what overcomes that temporary challenge.
Mm, exactly. I I remember my dad always telling me that Martin, techniques will change all the time, and we see those in competitions in UFC. There's different techniques to finish certain opponents. And my dad would always say that techniques come and go and techniques change and techniques are modified. But principles never die. Principles never change. Principles of distance, principles of timing, principles of speed. So very, very true. Principles and the principles that we did talk about today that you shared. This is why I'm so passionate about this channel, this show, this podcast. Is like you said, it's not taught everywhere. If you're lucky enough to have a dad that was mentored by his dad and is connected to a group of either a community or a mastermind or some group that are high level, most kids or most sons and most fathers will never be privy to this type of information. So I'm very passionate and very grateful as well that you took the time to meet with me and to share some of your important golden nuggets about fatherhood and influencing your son to be a great son.
Yeah. And I'm more than happy to do this. It's one of my things when I look around, Martin, I interview people for jobs or I'm thinking about giving them a piece of a business or um, a joint venture or whatever the scenario is, it's just so disappointed like 99% of the time. So when I spot a young man, Martin, today, I had a kid a few weeks ago. I met a guy on a plane about a year ago. When I spot one, Martin, who has the manners, I always go to them. This has nothing to do with money or making money or whatever. And I let them know, hey, you got the goods. Here's my phone number. You want to call me sometime? I'd love to hear your story. They're that noticeable. You can see them on a plane. You can see if you go into a restaurant and it's the waiter. You can see it so stands out today, Martin. So I'm passionate about it. I think it is vitally necessary. I think this is vital, vital. I can't even imagine what it's going to be like 2, 3 generations from now with the way dads are treating their sons and sons are treating their dads.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of respect has been lost, Martin. I really, really do, and it needs to be reinstituted. So continue with this program. I've known you a long time. The thing I most admire about you, and again, I was your father's friend first, and just the things he did, the principle we had. We would sit down for hours and have discussions on this stuff. But inevitably, you can theorize as much as you want. What's the result? And he has a result of 3 sons that are stellar. You and your 2 brothers and your sister.
Yeah.
And your sister attracted a guy like that because she was raised in that environment. So she attracted a guy like that, Patrick,
Yeah.
who's just awesome. So like the whole thing just, I don't want to say works together, but it works together. So awesome program, Martin. I wish you success. The people who have an opportunity to go do this with you, I'm going to highly encourage it. Doesn't matter what it costs. Here's the deal. Guys. You're either going to pay a little bit of money now or you're going to pay a lot of money later if you don't raise a good son, a
That
capable son who has power and control over their lives. So wonderful to hear you doing this, Martin, and anything I can do to help you, let me know.
Again, thank you very much.
Take care.